Alright guys, you're watching Josh Bois TV, and today we have
Brie Thomas
from Girl Power Fitness.
Yes, hello.
And she's going to be asking some questions about raising capital and fundraising and the whole process.
Yes, so a little bit about me. I have a small startup fitness company that is to help women lose weight through nutrition and fitness. And I really want to grow and scale my business. So I came to Josh because I have never done something like this before, and I really want to learn how to get investors, how to get capital, and how to really scale my business. I've got a great product, a great idea. I've gotten tons of feedback from women, and now I'm ready just to take it to the next level.
Nice.
So I need some help, so I'm reaching out to Josh here, like, help me out, brother. Like, what can I do?
What can we do here?
What can I do to really launch this off? So my first question is for you is, what are the different types of investing, and how do I know which route to go down?
Definitely. So there's a couple different classes of investors, ranging from seed investors, which is kind of what they call a friends and family round, which is usually when your friends and family kick you off 10 or 20, 50, 100, 200 grand. Then there's seed investors, where they're outside, private wealthy individuals that kind of want to give back, help start off companies. They're called seed investors. That's usually between like $10,000 and $50,000 or so. Then we have what I deal with a lot, which is angel investors. That's where people are putting anywhere between $10,000 or $25,000 and maybe $250,000 up to maybe $500,000. Then we have like venture capitalists, and that's typically a lot more what's called due diligence, where they're going to do research on your deal and they want to see the numbers and they want to take something that's already kind of accelerated and take it to the next level. They're putting in millions, so probably 5 or 10, 15, 20 million. Then we have private equity firms, which basically are firms that kind of like take over a majority ownership of a company, like 40%, and kind of use their operational excellence to, that's their wording actually, I've been with a lot of PE firms this week, and to kind of take over and run it right. Then we have what's actually really exciting, which is called family offices. And that's where it's basically like a billionaire's family. There's so much wealth that they literally have a dedicated investment firm just with their own last name on it usually, dedicated to kind of like Rockefellers. But there's tons of these family offices where they have 100 million or 200 million, maybe not billions or trillions like the Rothschilds or Rockefellers. And so yeah, those are some of the different assets. Then there's funds and things like that, but that's kind of the main thing. So for entrepreneurs kind of starting off, you typically want to look for angel investors. And that's a lot of the people we have at our event. We do events where it's basically a little bit mix of private equity, family offices, venture capital, and that kind of gives entrepreneurs seeking different routes of money a lot of options. So if they have an idea that's maybe it's awesome, but it's really not quite there, maybe a bigger investor will still take them on, but maybe a small investor will still hop on and give them some bridge money, like their first 25, 50 grand, kind of help out, at least in the meantime, until they find a big investor. So there's a little bit about that.
So, I mean, what is that? Okay, we'll take a step back here. I'm trying to raise between 20 and 30,000. So, what kind of plan do I need to have in place to try to reach out to these investors?
Definitely. Well, there's a few different regulations online about what type of deal you have, and there's like regulations like Regulation D, Reg A, and they all have different rules about how much money you can raise, how many investors you can reach out to, and most importantly, if you can reach out to the public, because sometimes you're supposed to reach out to only accredited angel investors, and if you have investors that aren't, sometimes they can be kicked out of your deal, or you can get in trouble, or you might have to return their money. So you have to look into some different regulations, and Reg A, Reg A+, Reg D are just a few of them. And some let you basically go after the public, which is ideal, and that's when you can publicly advertise on radio, TV, web, and then there's some of those options actually are kind of part of the Jobs Act that Obama actually helped set up, and that actually lets entrepreneurs crowdfund, which is actually something I think you would be phenomenal at. Brie, if you don't know already, is an influencer online, and she has a great following. She does a lot of content, from photos and videos and tips and blogs and websites. So you have a really good platform and audience actually to do crowdfunding. And crowdfunding is generally when you have a lot of smaller entrepreneurs. So instead of having 3 guys come in and give you each $10,000 or $15,000, or 3 female angel investors, a lot of female angel investors in our county here actually, part of some of their networks. But you could probably have like 1,000 people each put in, $50 or $25 and get people to tip over. And that actually can raise a lot of money too, when you kind of use the crowd to help fund your deal. And that's typically successful, especially with consumer products, like where you have, where it's very consumer facing, like your nutrition book, or things like e-digital downloads, or, well, it's like, hey, you know, put in 50 and you might get, you know, to download the premium version of the app for free once it's out, or get extra credits or something like that, or a shout out on your website. But there might be some sort of soft, you know, thing you can do for them, or they put in 50 and you give them a $10 shirt, or some sort of, you know, girl power fitness, you know, something really cool, you know, like iPhone case or something that you come up with, you know, that might be awesome. So that might be an interesting route for you individually, specifically.
I did not consider that before, but now that you're saying that, I feel like I have a lot of friends who would want to contribute, but they don't have a whole lot of money, so that would be a way for them to kind of get in on the deal a little bit. Interesting. Okay, my wheels are turning now. So what, so can I mix between crowdfunding and my angel investment?
Yes, actually. So we're actually helping a company in Los Angeles right now called MedX. They're actually one of the top performing crowdfunding deals, alternative deal on Startup Engine. That's one of the crowdfunding websites. They've already raised $2 million. They've come to us to help raise another about $8 to $10 million. And they're able to basically not only send a lot of traffic to their crowdfunding page, and they do that through email marketing. I launched a campaign for them last week and sent it off to our email list. I'm sure you've probably been building an email list as well. We can start, you know, really focusing on that. And that kind of, you can present your deal with a click the call button. You know, you get people excited about your story in the email real quick. Nice graphics, text, and then a call to action. Go check out our deal on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, or there's a bunch of these different crowdfunding sites as well that you can do this on. They all have pros and cons. Two of them, there's two different styles generally of fundraising on crowdfunding. So one is called equity crowdfunding. That's when you're giving up a percentage of your company. And another is kind of like on Kickstarter, where it's called reward based, which is where, hey, give us, you know, $500 towards our $1 million goal, and you get, you know, the mug and a T-shirt and the first prototype of our product or something like that. So that might be an interesting option to, because you can, maybe you'll potentially mix and match. I'm not sure all the regulations. I'm not a lawyer, although I was raised by 2 lawyers. But yeah, so that might be an option to do a reward-based or potentially equity-based. I think you might be really successful reward-based, where you could give some sort of something soft, right, where it doesn't come out of your pocket, or it's something minimal, where it's very 50, you're only giving like 5 to 10 back, and most of the money's remaining in your crowdfunding.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I feel like I really don't want to give up equity in my company, then maybe crowdfunding is kind of the best way for me. Well, that and, like, you know, reaching out to the good old fam.
Right. Well, plus the thing with the equity side of it too, sometimes there's like minimums, or sometimes they do need to be accredited. You know, there's different things, and sometimes people don't want to ride for the long term with you. You know, private companies can take 10, 15 years to, you know, get purchased through an acquisition, or to merge into a bigger company, or to go public on a stock exchange. So the majority of, you know, private shares in companies just kind of end up being worthless, or they're not very liquid, so the investor can't get their money out unless a big transaction happens. So, you know, it's a little trickier sometimes to do that.
Okay. So the way I'm seeing it is I've got 2 routes. I've kind of got this crowdfunding route, reward based, and then angel investors, right?
Angels can actually still come in and help you with your crowdfunding, so they could still be. So technically, you could also have, you know, 100 angels come in at $1,000, and that's $100,000.
Okay.
So, you know,
so what does it look like? How do I target these angel investors? What do I need to do?
So I will get to that in one second. One other thing I wanted to mention too is there's different sites have different policies. So and sometimes they flip-flop on it, but like certain sites like Kickstarter, for example, have been known to, if you don't hit your goal, then you don't get anything. So you have to be careful about, you know, let's say you only set a goal of raising $5,000 and then you hit $8,500, but then no one wants to keep investing that goal. Well, you already made all your money. Then also it can be troubling if you're trying to raise $500,000 on there and if you only raise $50,000, then it's like, you know, people don't want to hop in because they don't think you're going to close the round. So that's one thing.
What if I create my own landing page?
Well, yeah, so yeah,
Crowdfunding
I'm not 100% sure on all the regulations. That's my buddy up there on that owns that penthouse right there. We do parties up there. It's really cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we call him the mayor. It's pretty funny. We're made of the park here. So yeah, and then as far as terms of finding angel investors, you know, a lot of people come to firms like my own firm here, Global Capital Network, We align them with different angels that make sense in their industry, whether they're doing tech, like an app like you're doing, or whether they need to be like alternative or oil and gas, or food industry is a big one. So we have a lot of investors that own restaurants. One of our investors actually owns like 6 restaurants around here, but it's actually kind of funny because I actually approached him about a food relative product, an alcohol product, because some of the companies were raising on alcohol, and he happened to be, it's like a more Mediterranean or Arab style of restaurant, so they don't serve alcohol. So he wasn't open to alcohol at all. So you kind of have to know your investors' preferences, and that's kind of where a firm like mine comes in. There's a lot of sites out there, like Angel List. LinkedIn's really awesome. You can type angel investor or venture capital and find people that way as well. So I definitely recommend like LinkedIn, Google searching potentially. People talk about it.
How do you Google search
Google
investor? Investors in San Diego in the fitness industry. Is that gonna help me out? I don't know.
Well, yes, actually, because there's actually a lot of what's called like angel groups or angel networks, and that's what we work with a lot too. Is where 30 to 50, 60 angels will come together and we'll hold basically events, and that's where they kind of get pitched to. And usually those are mostly just like angel investors, although sometimes vendors find their way in the room, which is kind of annoying because then your hit ratio is a little off. That happens in all rooms too, including sometimes our conferences. There's non-investors you have to weed out sometimes, or they act like investors say they are, But anyways, angel networks allow you to it's kind of like a hub. So it's kind of like you kill 2 birds or 30 birds with one stone, where instead of pitching, setting up 30 different coffee meetings with 30 different investors, you go in once and you pitch your pitch deck and see how they reverberate. And then kind of what we do is we kind of take that to the next level and bring 20, 30, 40, 50 angels in a room, and then we'll also bring 20 VCs or 20 private equity firms, 20, and we'll fill it. We just had an event at a Balboa Bay Club here with 150 plus investors throughout the day. Then we just did Island Hotel and had like 120, so it's more than you'd see at a typical angel network. And at some of our events, we actually have like the president of Tech Coast Angels and the other people, and that's a big angel network over here. So for all of you Orange County entrepreneurs, definitely recommend going to the Cove at UCI. That's kind of like a startup incubator here in Irvine. That they have all sorts of events where you get to meet investors. They have some satellite offices like for Octane and Tech Coast Angels, some of the angel networks here. So you actually can Google and find some of them. But there's
Wait a second. How do I get involved? It sounds like you throw some pretty badass events,
pretty
right?
fun.
Okay, so allowed to say that? I don't know. But how do I get involved in that? 'Cause that sounds pretty cool. I feel like exactly what you said. If I could get in front of a group of people that and spend 1 hour pitching versus 30 coffee meetings, that sounds like a good way to utilize my time. So what do I need to do to get involved in your company?
Definitely. Well, you may see here at one of our next events. We are hosting an event at Beverly Hills Four Seasons in the coming weeks here. That'll be a smaller, about 60 or so investors. But we have some pretty big firms. We have like one of the second largest private equity firms from Africa actually coming. They came to our last event and presented and spoke, and they're working on sponsoring us. They're moving their headquarters from London to Beverly Hills. So we're kind of doing a welcoming party. So we have some cool events going on that you'll be able to. I'll have you attend as a female entrepreneur, and I want you to meet some of the other female angels here in Orange County. There's kind of a growing scene. There's actually a group called OC Angels. I used to actually attend some of their meetings and take their official notes, so the investors could read after all the notes from the meeting. And that's about 20, 30 or so, I think, female angel investors here, and they do it just because for the good. So I think they charge like $500 or so. Don't get me wrong, sorry guys. But they actually donated all to like Chapman University, so it's not even about profit. It's really about putting entrepreneurs in front of investors that are interested in biting. So it's pretty cool. And so where are you guys at with the stage of your app currently?
So our app is, currently we've hired on some developers and they're in the works. They have the layout right now, but we can't proceed with any further development until we've got some capital.
Okay.
That's where we're sitting at right now. The whole concept is already drawn out. The programming is in place, like all the all the layouts of how it's going to run and what it's going to look like, and the programming that goes behind it. So just to give you guys an idea, it's a personal training app. So you get a nutrition plan and you get a workout plan, and it's all designed towards your body type, but it's also designed towards your lifestyle. So if you're someone who's on a keto diet or on a paleo diet, or maybe you're vegetarian or vegan, this app can apply to you, and it creates a custom meal plan based on your body type and lifestyle. So all the back end has been completed, the meal plans, different foods that are allowed and such like that. But now we're really looking to put that into a really user-friendly program where you can go in and have a meal plan for the day and track your results and connect with other women in the community. So
two things that come up to me when you're talking about that is, one, aligning yourself with a strategic investor. So some money is what we call dumb money, different than funny money, but that's, dumb money is when someone literally just gives you a check, which is great because you can put it into all the resources you need. Some investors can kind of walk you through the right doors, kind of like when you're watching Shark Tank, right? And that you partner with Lori Grenier, and she walks you right into being on TV, TV shopping networks, and or gets you into Bed Bath & Beyond. So a company like yours, especially once you develop that app correctly, could be a good acquisition target for a company to provide. I actually use like a weight scale, for example, myself. It's a smart one. It was called like Withings, and then Nokia bought them. But they had a health app that used to track not just like your weight, track my body mass index, and all sorts of kind of factors about my body type, and even my heart rate every time when I step on it, and it synced with an app, and that was really cool. I actually really liked the old app, and then Nokia bought them. But that just gives you an idea that billion-dollar companies will sometimes say, hey, I like what you're doing, and I like your user base. And having the right investor to go knock on that door can mean everything. Do you watch Shark Tank? So yeah. Mr. Wonderful is one of my favorites, right? And he's known for licensing deals, but he could be the kind of guy who says, hey, let's sell your app to this billion-dollar company and make sure that you're getting 5 cents a user or a month, or 5 cents a download, from off whatever they're making or whatever it might be. And sometimes you need those kind of heavy hitters that already have the 30, 40 year track record in the industry to make those. That was the first thing I want to mention. The second thing is that you can potentially find the right people. I think you might be able to influence the right person to do this. For them to work via equity for the programming. So put in the sweat labor of programming and doing all the work in exchange for ownership in the company. And there's a lot of firms, especially in India, that will either develop for really cheap. If they believe in you enough, then they'll actually potentially develop the app with you or for you and be a stakeholder. The third thing I want to mention with that, for all of you guys entrepreneurs out there, is there's a thing called vesting with stock. In Silicon Valley, they call it like the 2-year vesting or 3-year cliff, which is where you can have people work towards equity in your company and be like, hey, if you scratch our back on this and you work towards developing this app, after 2 years, or like every month, you'll be getting like 1% or 0.5% or 10,000 shares in our company every month for the next 2 years. But you don't receive any of that stock until 2 years. So they have to stay diligent and working hard on your company, so they can't just, say, oh yeah, I want 10% of your company, I'll develop your app, then they get lazy, you don't get your shares. So they have to work towards it and stick around the business, otherwise those shares vanish and come back to your share pool.
What's the benefit of like doing something like that where you're giving away equity versus just crowdfunding? Because when I think about it, like if I want to grow this business and scale it to, say, $10 million in the next 5 years, that 1% in the beginning, that 1% to get me that $20,000 to $30,000 is going to mean a lot more in a couple of years.
It will. But there's kind of that like wisdom metaphor of it's better to have a smaller piece of a bigger pie. Sometimes when you hold too much stock too close, and you can't give away 1% or 5% or 10% to the key people that could help add value, then your whole pie doesn't grow as much as it could. So imagine, like, would you rather have 60% of a $10 million company or 100% of a $10,000 company, right? So sometimes it makes sense to give up shares, but that's the game of business.
Yeah.
It doesn't always end up perfect, and sometimes some person gets more shares than they should, but and that's our planning strategy as the CEOs here.
So if I'm gonna try to get some investors and give away any equity, they really got to be aligned with my core.
With your core,
my vision.
And they should ideally be strategic, and that's the word you should say. You're looking for like a strategic investor.
strategic investor.
Strategic. So
Are you out there?
Where are you guys? Strategic investor.
I need you. Call me. My number is 6 foot. No.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
You like almost said it.
Anyways, we do what we can. Female entrepreneur. Listen, this is better than stripping, okay? I'm saying that right now. Help us.
That's funny. So, what other questions do you have, Mrs. Brie?
Okay, so I feel like
This is a complicated puzzle, though.
What?
There's more to it. Yeah. There's lots of layers. It's like
There's
an
a
onion.
lot of layers. Okay.
It's an onion in your cookbook.
So.
I'm gonna keep peeling.
That's right.
It's good for you. It's healthy, right?
Okay, so I'm trying to think. So crowdfunding. Let's go back to that. How do I execute a crowdfunding plan? I just sign up on one of these websites and then throw in an email campaign, or
Yes and no. So there's even specialty ad marketing companies and ad agencies that we work with, where they'll do marketing campaigns directly for crowdfunding, and they know kind of the retention rates and the pull rates. But even when you're doing ads and things on Facebook and all, realize that you might only have like a 5% conversion or 2% or a 1%, and that's normal for marketing. A lot of people get real deflated and frustrated real fast because they'll spend $20 on an Facebook ad or $100. Like, wait, how come I didn't get a sale back? And it's like, it doesn't work that way. You have to put out lots of ads and test things. The other issue is sometimes there's campaigns can expire. So you might have a deadline or a timeline attached to this crowdfunding. So you might sign up, but then you might find you only have 30 days or 60 days to raise this. And if you didn't raise that all, or that's all you get to keep, or you can't go back on the site until some lockout period or something. So you really want to kind of have everything, your ducks in a row ahead of time. And especially depending on where your app is and the stage of it, you might even consider talking to the actual crowdfunding site themselves. So instead of just signing up as any other Joe, get yourself right in the middle of their, be the squeaky wheel against the oil. And I have partners of mine that have directly partnered with like Indiegogo, so they can make sure their campaigns and their companies are on the home page or they're featured, or they're the first thing. And that can be the difference between someone seeing you or not. If you're just like on Google, right? If you're searching for something and you're on page 1, you get the deal. And we have a lot of companies find us. I found a way to get my own firm, 2030 Ventures. It's one of my other companies outside of Global Capital Network, on the first page of for Venture Capital Orange County. So I have people calling for internships and people calling for jobs and investors calling, and I have entrepreneurs around the world locally trying to fundraise that find us. Just it's this one little marketing method. So making sure you're findable is important by being on that first page. So you might want to either make sure kind of pre-build your list, maybe pre-tap it for a while and see how many people are really going to a link. Maybe build your gotta be careful how I say this. You can acquire lists in the right format. A double opt-in only, of course, but there's ways.
I'm sure you can partner with some companies who could sponsor my
Although
link.
there was a big recent thing they call like GDPR or GPDR or something like that. It's all about UK and London, where now you absolutely have to double confirm any emails out of UK. So it's every country has some of their own rules. Sometimes states have their own rules. You have to have unsubscribe links and things like that. You can kind of bury it a little. Not trying to be tricky, guys. You can unsubscribe if you really want.
No.
But
I've really started to my channel. That'd be great. Girl Power Fitness.
And Josh Bois TV.
Yeah.
That one too. Give me a little love.
Hey man, get out of here. This is my show.
My channel. No, it's good.
Okay, but what if I don't have an email list, and what if I don't have money to invest in a company to do advertising for me? Then what?
Definitely. Well, I think. So let's go through some. So how many followers do you think you have on each different channel?
Oh, I don't know. Probably 60,000.
Okay. And do you run any engagement tests on that to see how many click your ads? I feel like you have a pretty good click through.
Yeah, my click-through is pretty good as long as I'm being straight up with people. So
yeah, that's the game. That's the game.
Yeah, usually that's what it is. My followers can tell if I'm like, "Hey guys, buy this today," and they're like, "Brie, you're not even awake, but you have to buy this today."
Just want to see your coffee pictures.
They're like, "Take your clothes." No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, 60,000 is a good number because usually, like I said, you're gonna cut that down by like 97% to figure out who might click through and pay. So let's say, 3% of 100,000 users is maybe 3,000 users, so out of 50, 60,000 or so, that's maybe like 1,500, 2,000. That's on the low end though, and you have pretty good engagement. The good thing for you is you're not marketing something totally different. So you're already in fitness, and you have a pretty loyal audience of people that are in fitness and active and health. So this is right up that same alley. It's not like you're like all of a sudden switching to, I'm making an app about, measuring dry wood or something,
Yeah.
for the
Right.
construction industry. It's like very relevant, so that helps you a lot. So definitely I'd start converting that social audience a little bit into email. I would put a subscribe box right on your website, on your Facebook page. Start adding your friends' emails and stuff to that. Some of you guys are my friends out there watching this. Even when I did my birthday party over right there, actually, I had everyone fill out an RSVP form. So and you can start doing events, but I had them fill out their name, first and last, their phone number, their email, even a bunch of their social medias as well, so I could fill in the gaps. And I actually store them in a CRM, a contact relationship manager, so I can actually start filtering by people, whether it's like my personal contacts, my business contacts, investors of what sizes, which of my friends went to this event. And for my event, I actually did like an email blast, the day before, and I actually did a text message blast, to a lot of the people coming that day. And things like that can actually help too. So if you start building those lists of the phone numbers and the emails, then it gives you a really reliable way. And especially for you as an influencer, it gives you other means to capitalize on affiliate campaigns. So when you're out there marketing products and you're going to get a commission, let's say you're selling some $80 nutritional product on Amazon and you're getting, $5 of every sale. Well, that could be the difference between you getting, $50 or $500 or $5,000 based on that list, yeah, so I would say, add a dedicated box to subscribe right on your guys' homepage. And I actually made a dedicated page on my websites, like joshbois.com/subscribe, globalcalpnerd.com/subscribe, with just the email box and the subscribe, and the notice.
Okay.
And that way I can, whenever I'm talking to someone on LinkedIn or Facebook, and I'm like, hey, they're like, oh, keep me in the loop for future events, or well, I want to know what you're up to, or, like, invite me. I just say, hey, subscribe.
Yeah.
And, because I
Or
just
would you rather just be like, hey, yeah, what's your email? And then be like,
well, we can basically enter it too, yeah. Sometimes you got to do that because they might forget or not
Right.
click through, or
most people do.
so yeah. And there's apps like MailChimp where you can just kind of go right in and just add it to your newsletter, your list. You can keep different lists. You could have like your your Instagram people, or the people who have signed up on your website. Your customer list is a good one to tap too, without bugging them too much, right? You have to be careful for churn and burn.
So, what CRM do you use? Am I allowed to ask that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I like Zoho. Z-O-H. Oh.
Why are you looking at me?
No, I'm
like
joking.
that?
Why
Why are you saying ho? And
No,
looking at me like, what the fuck?
Zoho. No, it just sounds funny. Like
Alright, whatever.
Z-O-H-O. It just sounds funny, like spelling it out. Like I was trying to spell it out. Zoho. And it's awesome because they have everything from forms that you can put on your website. I actually use that for investor registration even. So our investors can register and put how much they like to invest in, how they categorize themselves.
Oh, you can make forms,
If they're an accredited investor. So you could do that for a lot of people, like, free fitness assessment or something like that, fill in your body type or fill in your, age or location. You don't want to ask too much either, and then some people will churn, so maybe you have some mandatory fields at the top and then the rest is optional, but at least get their email.
Yeah.
And definitely at least their first name, so you can say, hi, John, check out this link. Phone number is good too if you want to do text message blast, and maybe you put a box saying, can we text you or can we email you if you feel like being nice.
You put in their info, man, they're done.
Sorry guys, I'm a marketer, 15 years, man.
It's like once you give it, you're gone.
It's done.
Yep, it's done.
But one thing about email marketing too, you have to actually watch out for how many unsubscribes or bounces you get too. Because a lot of the people like Gmail and Yahoo monitor this, because if your rate goes too high, let's say 5 or 6, 7, 10%, maybe higher, they see like 30% of the people who are unsubscribing, they're thinking maybe you bought this list, and you're sending out spam, and then they shut down your account, and that can blacklist your domain or other things. So you got to be careful, really, and you want to be relevant too. You don't want to piss off a lot of people, but at the end of the day, marketing is the numbers game. When you're trying to raise, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, especially by crowdfunding, then you really need the numbers, When it's maybe you're going after 5 or 10 angels, you know, and you usually got to knock on a lot more doors. You know, it's a lot of investors, it's not the right time, or they don't have the liquidity, right, or they're already in too many deals and they're busy, you know, on boards of directors. So yeah, I'd say really have your marketing plan set long before you click that button of day one campaigns going, you know, so that you do. Another thing is, you know, it's really helpful too if people could have just like a beta, you know, like or at least like something live on the App Store to see like your version 1, and then like log in and get a free point or something like that before, you know, they invest in it. But you know, sometimes, you know, you can still raise before things are made. That's part of what Kickstarter is around for, is we have this awesome idea, guys. We just need $1 trillion to do it. Like, help us. You might not see your money again, but you'll maybe
awesome. That's another question I want to have for you. So, kind of going back to the angel investors. So, I feel like I got a pretty good idea of like how to do this crowdfunding.
We lost the fire. One second, guys.
Like, I'm getting cold.
Oh no.
So, where is it?
It's coming. It's coming.
So waiting for it.
Waiting for
it. Right there.
Oh, all right.
Okay, so I feel like everything that you told me about crowdfunding, I can grasp my head around. But my other question to you is, okay, there's that part over here, but I don't want to limit myself, and I also want to push myself and like my business plan and my ideas to some angel investors. So what do I need to do to do that? I guess. So, like you were saying, get involved in some groups or associations, or join a company like yours. What do I have to do to join a company like yours, or come to one of your meetings?
Well, for ours, you know, we generally keep it pretty, you know, investor centric. So we do sometimes offer tickets to non-investors or entrepreneurs, or we'll sponsor certain firms to attend. I'm actually a lead mentor at Chapman University. So I've been known to allow some of the students and the brands that I mentor to kind of come for free, and sometimes even pitch with what we call a lightning pitch, where they just talk for 3 minutes without giving a pitch deck in their presentation, and then get to network with the investors before and after. Sometimes we'll sponsor, you know, but another thing actually I wanted to bring up that you might be good at, kind of along that strategic investor side, is just strategic partners for your market, for your campaign. So imagine maybe you have the list and you have your followers that you think you can promote to. But you could probably align with some other health companies that believe in your app, or they want to be featured on it somehow, right? Or they, you know, maybe you promise once your app's developed for the free non-premium users, maybe if you're not serving ads to those guys, right? That they have their logo at the bottom, right? Or you give them the first 50,000 impressions that the app receives, and then they can pay after that. But they might be willing to at least tap their list for that, you know, or add you to their existing monthly newsletter, or maybe make it, you know, they usually do it once or twice a month, but they'll shoot off a third one dedicated just to you, and maybe, you know, you rebate them. I don't know all the legalities, right? But maybe if they brought, you know, 10,000 investors to your campaign, then, you know, you sponsor or do ads with them, or buy some of their product back or something like that, to, you know. So I think you could probably jump on the shoulders of giants a little bit, you know, and find, you know, other local health companies or a health drink or other companies. You know, another thing you could do is potentially, if you reach out to other companies that are fundraising in the same space and work with them, or, you know, everyone's always looking out for themselves, you know, so you got to have an element of what's in it for them, or some sort of why it's a win-win. And that's up to us sometimes as entrepreneurs to find the magic win-win situation. Yeah.
That's what we're good at currently.
You know? But if you have your 60,000 followers, then you could say, hey, I'll blast you off to my 60,000 followers in your product and do a video maybe or something about them. And maybe you guys kick me off to your 5,000 or 10,000 really health-centric users.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea.
You know, like a local, maybe not like a big 24-hour fitness or something like that, where maybe they're too big and they have corporate and it's tough to get to their marketing people because there's so many units. But maybe like a local fitness studio, right? Where there's like 3 or 5, or like Orange Theory or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, they work with some of the local companies here.
I can think of a few people off the top of my head coming after you.
Yeah. Or maybe it's like the store owner, you know, maybe it's like the store owner. So I'm sure you could do that, or like those those cycling, those like light, where it's like the crazy lights, you know, Soul Cycle, Soul Cycle, Soul Surfer, Disney. I don't know if you remember the Disney movies.
Yeah, I remember. Yes.
Go big or go home.
Okay, I like that idea, partnering. That makes a lot of sense, because we can they can use mine, I can use theirs, and there's no cost really right up front.
Win-win, exactly. You know, or Yeah, and even right now, there's a million ways to go about it, but you definitely want to have your strategy kind of ahead of time. And as far as the actual pitching, and that's what you and me were talking about earlier this week or last week, generally what an investor wants to see is called a pitch deck. And it's just a fancy word basically for PowerPoint. It's basically, your way of having about 12 to 15 slides. You don't want to overbore people with 30 to 50 or anything like that. Basically, who you are, who your team is, why you think they can execute, what your marketing strategy is, what's your product, why is it different, what's your secret sauce, what differentiates you from every other person out there. Is there anything that can protect you? Can you protect that competitive advantage? You can make, we're the first person to make this app with this, and this feature, but can you get a patent on that potentially? Maybe you have a specific algorithm or something that determines BMI, or maybe you create your own scale. Maybe instead of like body mass index, like the Brie mass index, like it's
I like the sound of that. Watch out, big things coming.
Big things coming.
Big things coming. They'll be running for this scale.
Oh man. So yeah, you want to create a PowerPoint.
Okay.
And then I think you said you're working on a business plan.
Yep.
Business plan's always good. That's usually more in depth, 10, 20 pages, or at least a 2 to 3 solid one. They'll actually sit and read. That's the big thing. Is you don't want to give them too much sometimes. When you're at a later stage company, we see a lot of companies whether they're raising money or they're already pretty successful. They put together what's called a PPM, which is a private placement memorandum. And those are like usually prepared by like a broker dealer. It's like a stock, like a full-on brokerage firm or a law firm or in some combination, or accounting firms all working together. And that's like 40 to 80 pages, 100 pages. So you don't need that yet. And then there's different forms of raising capital too that some entrepreneurs will use. Sometimes they call it like a convertible note. And that's where basically an investor basically gets a debt in your company. So you can say, we're gonna give you, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but let's say 20% of our company for $200,000, or we're gonna take it as debt. So we're gonna borrow $200,000 from you and pay it back. But if you decide to convert it to equity and ownership, you can down the road. If they see a lot of progress in your business and they like what you're doing, then they can basically convert it and have some ownership piece.
Okay.
So that's one way. And there's one document it's called a subscription agreement. So, and again, we help navigate entrepreneurs through all of these kind of channels and terms and what they need to know and what they need to have. But yeah, it's definitely good to get on your feet. And you see at the Cove, I would definitely recommend you start going to some of those events. When you're passing by through OC. She's out of San Diego. Investors out there.
Yep, San Diego peeps, everywhere peeps actually. I'm willing to drive.
And we do investor shows down there. We did one in La Jolla in December. We did a 4-day tour. We did day 1 San Diego, day 2 Orange County, day 3 LA, and day 4 San Fran. So sometimes we take entrepreneurs from around the country and basically like bring them into different rooms of investors. Sometimes they get strategic investors. Actually, speaking of a health company, we had a female entrepreneur that was developing a pill basically to help not cure but alleviate our arthritis, different than other pills. It actually had been found to work on animals first, and they started working and testing on humans, and it was found effective. And when she picked up a strategic partner, so it wasn't cash, but actually ended up being better because she was actually seeking like 50 to 100 grand to basically develop the formula for this pill and reverse engineer things and develop and get labels and all. And this other company came in and said, hey, to us that's easy. We already have the equipment and this and this and this. We'll do that. And that could be another thing where if you protect your idea enough, you could approach like a development firm instead of just an individual and say, hey, would you guys want to take this on? I have these marketing assets that prove that it will be at least successful, or I'll be able to onboard a lot of users and these potential investors. If you want to hop on now, well, I'm willing to give you equity,
So how do I protect my idea against these development firms? Because I'm sure they're thinking like, oh, that's a great idea, we could do that. And then I'm like, oh crap, that was my idea.
Well, the bad news is I have patent attorneys tell me that, basically everything's been done. I have, people, especially with software, because there's companies like Apple where they'll go out there and they have full-time staffs of people literally developing patents all day long on all sorts of software things for things that they may never use, just that they can use if they decide to, or that they can license, or that they can sell, or that they can litigate and sell and sue against, basically. So it's tough. So that one's a good one to talk to a patent attorney about. There is a database called the USPTO, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. You can kind of do searches on there, but it can be a little detailed about the flow or your algorithm. And there are some drawbacks sometimes to putting things public in a patent, because when you make a patent, even though it protects you and you can sue against people that use it, you're basically publishing everything about it, all the secret sauce. So yes, you can go sue against it, but you might not know people are infringing against you for a while. Or they might be in China and they just don't care.
Great.
So
at least they're getting fit.
yeah, at least they're getting fit with your algorithm.
That's right.
But you know, so that happens all the time, especially in like the apparel industry, right? You know, or like, you know, fashion, where, you know, bags or DVDs or just about anything can be cloned. You know, even high end, you know, everything. You know,
Yeah.
so it's a little tougher with technology, but you have to be careful who develops your technology. Speaking of that, I have a guy who developed an awesome trading platform, and then, you know, he's paid tens of thousands of dollars. He was like 5 or 10 G's a month he was spending on just even one of the guys alone, one of the developers. And then for some reason, the guy just started holding the code against him. He wanted more money, or 25 grand, or 50. You know, you give people an inch, they'll take a mile. You know, so you know, so you got to be careful who you share your idea with.
Okay.
And one thing you can do as well is sign what's called an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, or a mutual NDA, which protects both sides.
I'm gonna need you to sign that right now.
Well, one thing to bring up on the side of that is a lot of venture capital and investors won't sign them, just because they see so many ideas all the time that they can't guarantee that they're not going to see something similar, or that someone's already done it, or that they weren't already working on something. So it's a little bit of a tricky game, and NDAs are infamous for not being very enforceable in California. At least I've heard. I haven't had to try that, you know.
Right, so I'm just screwed either way.
No, it's you know, business is a 24/7 game, you know, especially with global competing interests and health companies. And I think Nokia isn't based here either. I'm pretty sure Nokia is a foreign-based company, even though they obviously have U.S. operations. I could be wrong, but that just shows you foreign companies will also buy U.S. technology. You know, Withings was most likely a U.S. company, but I don't know for sure. That's just one acquisition. There's tons of these acquisitions all the time. So that could, especially when you're doing something that impacts, it could be an app potentially that could be, like this could be something that you sell to Brookstone over here at the Spectrum, right? You know, like obviously not that individual store, but the whole complex, and that could be, you know, that could be a Brookstone app included with their, you know, massager that, you know, measures your body weight and your fitness, or, you know, or this could be an app that's packaged alongside like meal prep containers or something, right? Where it's like, you know, and download our free app, and then that way you get their email or the phone number when they're signing up, or they're syncing in their Facebook, and you're getting marketable assets. And you get the whole point, especially with these kind of apps, is that you get everyone on them. You know, what's called critical scale, you know, where you have enough users on it where it's paying the bills and paying everyone, and you're able to profit and mass market it, you know. So yeah, there's a lot of decisions to be made in regards to your app and doing it proper. But those are some of my answers.
Okay, I think I got a good feel on what I need to do next.
What's your next step?
Ready to take over the world.
Take over the world, she says.
First of all, the first step is probably to list out all my relationships and people that I could help, or people that I could use as leverage. You know?
Definitely.
Leverage my networks.
Definitely. And I always recommend organizing that into like an Excel document, or just a Google Drive, you know, just a Word doc, so you can keep track not only of who people are, but also your communication and follow up with them. You know, were they busy, or did they not like your idea, or did they want to talk next Tuesday at 3, and this guy wants to talk, you know. So, you know, once you start knocking on a lot of these doors, then it becomes the battle of, you know, juggling, you know, who you're talking to when, and what you said, and what they're expecting from you, or they wanted to see this financial or that financial, or actually another critical thing for you might be finding a co-founder, like especially someone else in fitness that really knows it already. And that could be a strategic investor too, where they say, hey, I'm going to give you $50,000 and I can give you more later, but I'm going to be the new, you know, CTO or CMO or the chairman or the president or board of advisors, board of directors. Ooh, that brings me up to another good point. Sometimes a lot of people like their back scratched, and they like to be, you can offer them, without coming your claws out and asking for money, you can ask them to be on your board of advisors or board of directors. So you could honor someone, right? Some, you know, even larger fitness influencer, right? Or someone saying, you know, or you know, Laura Grenier is probably a little too busy. She's so beautiful, by the way. I love Laura Grenier. She's my future wife. Even though she might take it, I know, she might take it. She's just super go-getter. The fish, but you know, someone who's, you know, maybe they'll either sweat with you. You know, they'll say, you know, I'll invest $50K, but I'm also going to be working for you. So instead of getting 25% for that 50K, I want half and half with you, but we're going to take it to this next level because there's 2 of you guys. But there's pros and cons of business partners. I've had tons of them over the years. You know, and sometimes you don't get to fully see your vision. You have to kind of merge with someone else's vision of where they want to take the company. Maybe they don't want to do the individual body types. Maybe they cut that out and they just want to do fitness or just the nutrition. You know, or maybe they want to dive into some detail that you really don't care about and you want to focus on. So there's all sorts of issues, you know, but that could be an interesting thing to help you kind of, someone that's already kind of walked that path or had an exit ideally, you know.
How would I find someone like that?
I mean, LinkedIn's a great place, you know. I know I keep coming back to it. I actually, speaking of it, I really recommend getting like LinkedIn Premium. You know, there's different versions. I recommend it's like 70 or 80 bucks for the premium one if you're paying month to month. It lets you actually message people that you're not connected with on LinkedIn. So you can target people and you get advanced search filters. So you could say, you know, show me, you know, I'm not sure if it lets you do male or female, but show me, you know, people with angel investor in their title, you know, in Santa Monica or in, you know, San Diego or in Carlsbad, you know, maybe even that, you know, sometimes I've done like very detailed investor searches where I'll say, you know, show me investors in London that also, you know, went to, you know, like one of their, like Oxford or something like that, you know. So I already kind of know they're pre-selected, and there's still some, you know, people that get through in there. Facebook's actually an interesting one I've been tapping because people aren't really expecting it on there. It's kind of a more personal platform. So there's actually a tool I like to use called searchesback.com. Facebook recently made some algorithm changes that kind of messed up their algorithm. I think they're fixing it. I reached out to the founder of that to see if I can help support him in any way to get that fixed. But it actually lets you search Facebook by all sorts of factors. So you can search Facebook by show me people who are male or female between this birth date range that went to this school and with this job title. So, or that have this sort of interest. So, you know, sometimes I'll say, you know, show me all like investors in San Francisco that are from Google Ventures, you know, or from some big venture capital firm or incubator, unless you connect with them. And they're kind of not expecting it on Facebook. Sometimes, and you can actually only have 1,000 outbound friend requests on Facebook, you know, at any given time if you're building a first or second Facebook account to do this on. So you kind of got to be picky and choosy who you do. But yeah, you can totally grow your network that way and kind of weed out the people that aren't following or engaging with you, or you kind of left in the dust a little bit, you know, they're not doing much and you want to focus on go-getters. That's another way, is, you know, just prune your own Facebook, prune your own LinkedIn. I wouldn't necessarily delete people unless you get to one of those limits. On LinkedIn you can actually only me too.
Sucks.
I know. But I have a, for Facebook, you're talking about for Facebook?
Yeah.
So you can set up a second Facebook account.
Yeah.
You know, and make that more public facing. You know? You know, and then there's also, you can create a Facebook page instead of a profile.
That's true, I have a page.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like a industry leader page kind of thing.
Yeah, industry leader. Yeah, industry leader. I love it. So yeah, you can. Although, you know, Facebook actually for pages that they actually show you to less people than they'll show you to when it's your personal account and they're showing you to your friends on posts, because they want you to sponsor things. So yeah, same thing with Instagram business pages. Actually, they actually show you to less people so that you have to pay for ads. So they literally take down your engagement and it says sponsored next to it. So there's pros and cons.
Oh man, I'm a little overwhelmed right now, I'll be honest.
It's a lot at once.
But I feel like this is a good start.
Yeah, it's a very good start. Yeah, you're doing kicking butt, kicking booty.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of good tools that you listed out that I didn't think of before, so that I know I have in my arsenal, but just
just putting the pieces together, you know.
Exactly.
It's a never-ending,
never-ending
game.
So,
you know, putting those pieces together.
Okay.
Find the right people. Well, thank you guys for watching. This is Josh Bois TV. We have the lovely Brie Thomas here today, sharing her insights about her company and what she's working on. If you're an investor, make sure to follow her. How do they follow you?
My Instagram's at Ripped and Reckless, and then of course Girl Power Fitness on Facebook.
All right, guys, stay tuned in. Oh.